January 6th Capitol riot. A 3-hour standoff between rioters and Capitol Police in a tunnel. Here you can see rioters attempting to climb over police, punching them, grabbing at them, and launching a metal pole into the barricade of officers. Despite their efforts, the rioters never managed to breach past police at this location. But this is where Capitol Police had to retreat to because of this out-of-control group. I want to bring in John Dean, former White House Counsel to Richard Nixon. You know, I have to say, John, every time I've seen this video so many times, and each time I have to remind myself that this is America, not another country. You saw democracy threatened during Watergate. What do you see when you see this video?
I see something far worse than Watergate. In the end, Richard Nixon actually played by the rules. He did some very anti-democratic things to get elected. He cheated to win. He abused his power in office. But in the end, he seemed to have had a conscience and resigned when he was in trouble, and it was inevitable he was going to be impeached. I don't see that with the January 6th, either the drive behind it or what resulted and erupted. It is just, we are on a straight path right now towards authoritarianism or authoritarian rule. The Republican Party has embraced it. I've written extensively about it. It's an ugly way for our democracy to die, but that's what is in the scope right now.
Republicans continue to downplay the insurrection, right, and avoid cooperating with the investigation. We're just days from the anniversary. I mean, it came by so quickly. It's already been almost a year. So do you think that we are in danger of seeing something like this happen again?
It could very easily happen again. What is probably more troubling is what's been happening in various states that are controlled by Republicans, where they're literally rigging the elections, gerrymandering the districts, and not playing by the rules of democracy. This is all part of a pattern, and it's a kind of a sad situation. I kind of had to search my New York Times today to find stories on it. Didn't really get there until I got into the op-ed section. And there were some brief ones, but you know, it's not something that is featured in the news. I must say, cable and CNN are doing a much better job than the print media.
Well, then let me ask you this, if you don't think it's being featured enough in the news. You know, I had a conversation, I think it was last week, with a man by the name of Ron Flipkowski. He had written a piece, I think it was in the Washington Post, and he is a former Marine. He is now a criminal defense attorney. This is a man who's been monitoring the extremist right-wing elements before the January 6th insurrection. He had been a Republican, and he wanted to see, you know, what the voices were saying, trying to take over what used to be his party. And he was saying what he's seeing now. You have these extremist voices like a Steve Bannon and Alex Jones who are currently mobilizing these extremists to take on local governments, to get them in positions of power. When you hear this, I mean, this is frightening. Is this a wake-up call to all of us Americans who want to protect our country?
The fellow you talked to has been very active online and putting a lot of information out that he's been gathering. He kind of combs the web and tweets it regularly. So I'm very familiar with his alarm, and he is indeed signaling what we should be paying more attention to. But I think, yes, I think the media has to pay attention to this, because it is a democracy is being tested as it has never been tested, way beyond anything that happened during Watergate. With Nixon resigning, actually when Nixon agreed to honor the Supreme Court ruling that he had to turn over his tapes, it was pretty clear he was going to cooperate, and that would be the end of his presidency. Trump and his followers take the gamut to do everything contrary to the norms, to break all the rules. They are now trying to stall as best they can through litigation of turning things over to the January 6th committee, so we don't learn how bad it really was, how it might have infected the White House and the presidency itself. So yes, we're being tested. The system is being tested, but fortunately we have some good people in place to deal with it.
And Trump trying to ask the Supreme Court to also block the release of those White House documents surrounding the January 6th insurrection. John Dean, we'll leave it there. Thank you for the conversation.
American history is not a fairy tale. Thomas Jefferson wrote what many believe to be the most important document in human history. He was a slaveholder. We've never lived up to our American ideals. Jefferson himself didn't. But what he wrote has pulled us towards justice for more than 2 centuries. It's always a fight, and it's a battle that is never fully finished. But if Donald Trump is reelected, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation. We give Donald Trump 4 more years. This will not be the country envisioned by Washington. This will not be the nation bound together by Lincoln. This will not be the nation lifted up by Roosevelt or inspired by Kennedy. It will not be the nation that Barack Obama proved bends toward justice. We can't and I will not let this man be reelected President of the United States of America. When he said after Charlottesville, there were, and I quote, very fine people on both sides. I said then it gave license and safe harbor to white supremacists and neo-Nazis and to the Ku Klux Klan. These words not only stunned America, but they stunned the world. And in doing so, he assigned a moral equivalence between those spewing hate and those with the courage to stand against it. I said at the time, we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I said it again when I announced my candidacy. And I say it here today. We are in a battle for the soul of this nation. At all is both clear language and in code. This president has fanned the flames of white supremacy in this nation. His low energy, vacant-eyed mouthing of the words written for him, condemning white supremacists this week, I don't believe fooled anyone at home or abroad. His energetic embrace, the energetic embrace of this president by the darkest hearts and most hate-filled minds in this country say it all. When the white nationalist Richard Spencer celebrated Trump's election by declaring, "Hail Trump," at an alt-right conference where the Nazi salute was being used. In Charlottesville, David Duke, the former leader of the KKK, said, "This is why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take back the country." After Trump, just look around the world. The worst despots are now using Trump's language to justify their own abuses of power. Trump is trying to weaken our institutions, the press, the courts, the Congress, precisely because they are the only checks on his power. That's what this is all about. The abuse of power. No matter how old or young you are, you've never seen anything like this in your lifetime. We're being reminded every day that there's nothing guaranteed about democracy. Not even here in America. We have to constantly earn it. We have to protect it. We have to fight for it. I believe America is, as Lincoln named us, the last best hope on earth. But I, honest to God, don't believe Donald Trump sees it that way. On January 20th, 2017, in his inaugural address, Donald Trump painted a dark, bleak picture of our country in crisis when he declared, and I quote, "This American carnage stops right here. It stops right now." But as the sitting president, Trump's anger, hate, and divisiveness, pitting Americans against one another, preying on our divisions, and doing nothing about the endemic and the epidemic of guns, is fueling a literal carnage in America.